there's a paradigm shift going on. If you're seeing this, I know you can feel it. Things are changing. Things are changing so fast. Yet paradigm shifts are not fast change. They're change that happens typically when things start coming to a head in a lot of places in society. So what does that mean for you and I? Well, I feel like we know it's coming. I feel like we're uncomfortable because we don't really know what to do. I feel like we know that COVID was a game changer for a whole lot of us. And so, and what's going on in our government is not a joke. So I feel like there are a lot of things coming to an intersection, and I feel like there's a paradigm shift, and as I'm sure you do too, coming, and it's right here. And I have some ideas on that paradigm shift. I've been thinking about this for a while. You don't have to be spiritual to participate or think about a paradigm shift. They've always happened in history. I happen to be spiritual, but you don't have to be spiritual. I think what's required here, though, is an idea that we're all one, which is what my particular brand of spirituality happens to be centered in. How do we care for each other? How do we do for each other better? We are all one energy. There's too much scientific data that points to us all having a coherent energy stream that travels between us all. And so while I'm spiritual, is based in a science that I believe in. So what does that look like going forward? I see so many people angry about having to go back to work, and I see all the differing opinions about going back to work. And I have learned a lot in the last 2 years since I've been on this journey about how we were raised in a school system that was based on command and control. So when you think about command and control and how that's applied and benefited the industrial age, that makes a lot of sense. But there's a new paradigm coming. We're already kind of changing how we school in so many ways. We're pulling out the people who are gifted in certain areas and finding a path. And we have parents that know that it's important that their kids' gifts are recognized and capitalized. Ooh, that's a terrible word, but capitalized on. How do we help those kids figure out what they're supposed to be doing and how they can focus. And when I say what they're supposed to be doing, what they're supposed to be doing that makes them happy. When your cup is full, you can do anything. So there's a lot of things coming together in my head as I'm talking about this. So paradigm shifts, it's coming. And COVID taught us about how to turn inward, which I think was a huge part of how we prepare to go into this change that's coming. But as command and control and poor leadership shows up again, and I saw this really great thought from somebody else, it wasn't mine, that said, how can you possibly tell us a phrase or use a phrase that it's time to return to work? We never quit working, right? Return to the office, return to how it used to be, whatever it is. But I think we all know that we can't return to what it used to be. And we sure as hell can't return to work. And what's our incentive to want to return to work? So you look at, I think I heard that it was 4 million unemployment claims in April, because as people are starting to be pulled back into return to work, they're not having it. They can't function in that way any longer. So what do those people do? And where are some other gaps in society that are happening right now? And there's gaps in society. So as I'm looking at this from my perspective, I see that we have dysfunctional government. You can't swing a dead cat right now without seeing the dysfunction in our government and the greed and all of the things that are going into people participating in government and organizations the way that they do. So I experienced this firsthand. I wasn't a greedy person, but I was somebody who was completely consumed with my role at the organization where I worked. And that title meant everything to me. It wasn't a big title in the scheme of the world, but for me it was a big title, and it was something I worked for a long time. And when the prospect of that title being taken away from me was made real, I became very anxious and full of fear. And I think what we're seeing right now in our government and in our organizations is when fear and anxiety rear their ugly collective heads, people do desperate things, right? If you think that one of the parties in our system right now has lost their damn minds, honestly, they're afraid. They're afraid of losing their position, their title. I mean, it could be a million things that they're afraid of. And when somebody's afraid, that's something that I actually can have sympathy, empathy, apply the word that works for you. I can have that for that. I can see, because I've experienced what fear does inside of me, and I didn't like it. But sometimes you get so dug in and so entrenched that you can't stop. You're just spiraling. So that's what I kind of feel is going on with a lot of leadership in our country right now. So that leadership has choices, right? And I'm not talking about just government. I'm not talking about just organizations, just leadership in general, people in general. You have a choice. You can either get uncomfortable with that discomfort and start looking about how you can create your own change, or you can be replaced by people who are more comfortable with it while you do exactly what I did, while you go off someplace and reflect. And I sound like a parent. You need to go reflect on what you've done. But I mean, it's true. We need to reflect on how we got where we are. And honest to God, I think if most of the people who had an opportunity to step away from what they were doing, if they had a chance to reflect, they would have done it all differently. But they can't now. That's how they feel. I mean, they can. We all know that they can. But right now, they feel like they can't. So what do we do about that? We give them the break that they need, and we start running this joint in a way that we need. That we understand when we realize that we're all connected and we are all one, and that no one person has value over and above any other person. We start to change how things are in our society. So what does that look like? I don't know. I have some ideas. There's things that I've observed in my time. So I think about, there's so many teachers that are fed up with the system as it is. And they've been teachers all their lives, but they can't do it the way it's been done. What if every government physics history teacher that was fed up went out and started getting involved in politics, locally, state, federally, whatever that is? What if those people found a new way to teach? I happen to be blessed to have a bunch of designers in my connections. I've spent the last 8-10 years connecting with designers. And I had this great story. I was on a bus full of designers, young designers graduating from design school. And as we were on the bus, I started engaging the designers, asking them, now that they were done with school, did everybody want to be a designer? Because not every job in that industry is design based, right? There are project managers and there are buyers, and there's all these different levels that now, you know how it is. You go to college and you think you're going to do X, and then it turns out when you're in college, you found out then that you weren't really excited about X. But X with a Y twist might be okay. But here's the thing. There are all kinds of designers, but what designers have in common is they have a brand of thinking about who's it for and what's it for, right? That kind of thinking isn't the kind of thinking that they teach out in regular schools and it's critical thinking, but it's critical thinking of a particular type. So how can designers peel off of maybe the interior design that they weren't super enthusiastic about, but apply that thinking to developing other things? Jobs, corporations, ways that corporations fit together. Get rid of the hierarchy. What does the 360-degree holographic organizational chart look like, and how can design thinking apply to that? So I don't have the answers. What I have is this bee. I don't have the answers, right? I have ideas, and you have ideas. You have way more ideas than I have. But what I have is a perspective that things are changing and that we are all one. Oh, how magical is that? Love you guys.